If you could erase one memory to escape a curse, would you still be you? Buried beneath a forgotten hospital lies a cursed tree that feeds on memory and those who remember too much. Caleb returns to the place that shattered his childhood, where the forest whispers in lost voices and his sister Ruthie still waits, twisted by something ancient. As the truth roots deeper, he faces an unthinkable choice: sacrifice someone he loves or become part of the tree forever. This is a tale of rituals, haunted bloodlines, and a legacy of rot that refuses to die. Some roots grow from grief, others from guilt. The wind didn't blow that night. It whispered. It was the kind of whisper that seemed to crawl up from the dirt itself, curling between the stalks of the cornfield behind the old Kincaid farmhouse. The stalks didn't rustle. They leaned, as if straining to listen. Caleb Dawson pressed his boots deeper into the porch wood, arms folded, watching the horizon shift from steel gray to the deep indigo of dusk. The sun had dropped quickly behind the hills of Knox County, Missouri, leaving the air sticky with a false calm. He hadn't been back here since his mother died, hadn't planned to come back at all. But here he was, standing on his dead uncle's porch, staring down the very cornfield that had haunted his childhood dreams. The official report had said accidental death, something about Marvin Kincaid slipping near the old well and breaking his neck. That was 2 weeks ago. Now Caleb had a key in his pocket and a funeral behind him, and no more excuses to avoid the land that had gnawed on his memory since he was 12. He heard the screen door creak behind him. "You gonna stand there all night, or come eat something?" The voice belonged to Ruthie, local, tough, and sharp as cracked ice. She'd been his uncle's housekeeper, friend, or maybe something more. Caleb never really asked. She was staying on for a few days, helping him get things in order before she went back to her daughter's place in Springfield. Caleb turned just enough to glance at her. "You ever go in that field?" he asked. She stopped short in the doorway. "Hell no," she said without hesitation. "No one with half a mind steps foot in that field after sundown." He looked back at the rows of corn, perfectly still now. "Well," Ruthie snorted softly, "ask your uncle." But his uncle was 6 feet under and not talking. The farmhouse hadn't changed much. Same ticking grandfather clock in the hallway, same wallpaper yellowed by time and smoke. The dining room held the scent of burnt meatloaf and instant potatoes. Caleb ate without tasting, eyes drifting to the window that faced the cornfield. "So," Ruthie said, "you gonna keep the place?" "Maybe," Caleb said, "just for the summer. Depends. On," he hesitated, "on whether the field still got the thing." She put her fork down slowly. "You remember it too?" He met her eyes across the table. That sound it used to make, like laughing, but not human. Ruthie's face paled. "You were just a boy." "I wasn't dreaming," he said quietly. Outside, the wind picked up again. Only this time, it wasn't a whisper. It was a giggle, light, high-pitched, somewhere between a child and something not quite right. They both froze. "Tell me you heard that," Caleb said. Ruthie stood up, slowly, every bone in her body stiff. "You need to bless that field," she said. "Tonight." After Ruthie retreated upstairs, Caleb grabbed a flashlight and an old journal his mother used to keep. Leather-bound, pages stuffed with Bible verses, clippings, and strange entries written in rushed cursive. "Don't face the corn when it's dark," one scribbled read. "It sees you better that way." Another, "Kincaid blood draws the watcher out. Never let it smell the grief." He slammed the book shut. Half an hour later, against better judgment, he stood at the edge of the cornfield with a rusted lantern in one hand and a hip flask in the other. His breath clouded despite the summer air. The field had always had rules. His uncle never wrote them down, but they were drilled into his head like commandments when he was a kid. Don't go in after dusk. Don't answer when it calls your name. Don't ever, ever follow the laughter. He took a deep swig from the flask. Bourbon burned down his throat. The rows of corn yawned open before him. Just one step in, he told himself. just to prove it's nothing, that Uncle Marvin really did just fall, that the field was just a field. He stepped forward. The crunch of his boot against the dirt sounded louder than it should have. The corn swallowed him whole. Inside, the air was wrong. Heavy. Too still. The lantern's glow cast long shadows on stalks that looked too tall, too thin, like ribs reaching from the soil. He moved forward, slowly. 20 feet in, something changed. The light flickered, then steadied. Then he heard it, his name. Caleb. He froze. It came again, soft, feminine, like his mother's voice. But she was dead, buried in town. Caleb, come home. He turned sharply, but saw only darkness. His breath hitched. He backed up, the lantern swinging wildly. From deep within the rows, something moved. Not walked. Slid. He turned to run, but a shape blocked the path behind him. A silhouette, tall and thin, with a long, twisting neck that cocked sideways like a question mark. Caleb couldn't see its face. Didn't need to. It giggled. Not a sound made by lungs and lips, more like wind squeezing through a throat full of gravel. His legs moved before he could think. He crashed through the corn, blind, heart pounding. The thing didn't follow, or maybe it did. He didn't dare look back. The edge of the field appeared like a miracle. He stumbled out, fell to his knees in the grass, gasping. Behind him, the corn was still. He looked up and found Ruthie standing there, shotgun in hand, eyes hollow. "You went in, didn't you?" she said. He nodded, unable to speak. She didn't answer, just turned and walked toward the house. But as she passed him, she whispered something, barely audible. The first rule's broken now. Caleb turned slowly to look back at the field. In the distance, just past the first row of corn, stood a scarecrow. There hadn't been one there before. And it was wearing his uncle's coat. Caleb didn't sleep that night. He lay on the moth-eaten couch in the living room, lantern burning low on the floor beside him. The shotgun Ruthie had handed him clutched against his chest. Every creak of the old farmhouse was an intruder. Every brush of wind outside was that thing in the corn, dragging itself closer, inch by inch. Sometime after 3 a.m., he must have drifted off, only to jolt awake again with the distant sound of a bell. A small metallic ting, ting, ting. He sat up slowly, eyes burning from fatigue. The bell kept ringing, faint, rhythmic, familiar in a way that tightened the skin on his neck. The old dinner bell, but it had been rusted through years ago, hanging useless from a bent iron frame near the barn, and no one should be ringing it at this hour. He stood, grabbed the lantern, and stepped out onto the porch. The night air was cold now, unnaturally so. The stars above were swallowed by clouds, and the moon was veiled behind a film of gray. Ting, ting. The sound came from the direction of the cornfield. Of course it did. Ruthie was nowhere in sight. Her bedroom window was dark. The entire world seemed to be holding its breath. Caleb cursed under his breath, shrugged on a coat, and followed the sound, lantern trembling in his grip. The bell stopped ringing just as he reached the barn. The cornfield loomed just beyond it, black and unmoving. He stepped around the edge of the barn slowly and saw it. The scarecrow. Still there, still wearing Marvin Kincaid's coat, except now, its head was turned. It was facing him. Caleb's chest tightened. He hadn't imagined that. It had been looking into the field last night. He was certain. He stepped forward carefully, shining the lantern on the figure. Its burlap face was stitched into a permanent sneer. 2 hollow buttons for eyes, each glinting like wet onyx. The coat was buttoned crookedly, as if it had been dressed in haste. He moved closer, drawn by something he couldn't explain. And then he noticed the smell. Not the scent of old hay or damp earth, but rot. Human rot. He staggered back, bile rising in his throat, and that's when he saw the neck tag, still clinging to the collar of the coat. He reached out with shaking fingers and read it aloud. Property of Knox County Morgue. His uncle's coat had been buried with him. That thing was wearing it now. Caleb spun on his heel and sprinted back to the house, lungs burning. Ruthie was waiting in the kitchen, mug of coffee in one hand, shotgun resting across her lap. "You saw it?" she said, not asking. He nodded, panting. "It was facing me. It's wearing—" "I know what it's wearing," she interrupted, "and that ain't no scarecrow." Caleb dropped into the chair across from her. "Then what the hell is it?" Ruthie stared at him for a long, brittle second. Then she reached under the table and pulled out a box wrapped in worn leather. "Your uncle kept this locked up," she said. "Told me to give it to you if he ever passed like that." Caleb opened it slowly. Inside were photographs, sepia-toned, grainy. A few news clippings. One showed a young Marvin standing near the cornfield beaming. Another showed a group of people, 4 men and a woman, gathered around what looked like a wooden altar, half buried in the dirt. A headline read, "Local cult linked to disappearances in Knox County, 1947. Caleb flipped it over. In faint pencil were the words, "They planted something that wasn't meant to grow." Under the photos were notes in Marvin's handwriting, fragmented, terrified scribbles. "The watcher needs a body. It grows through grief, feeds on names spoken at midnight. It is bound to the field, but each death pulls it closer. If the scarecrow moves, leave." Caleb felt his pulse throbbing in his ears. "This is insane," he said. "This is a joke. Some local legend." "No legend," Ruthie said. "Your mother believed it too. She helped bury it." "Bury what?" Ruthie looked toward the window. "The altar." Caleb stood up abruptly. "Show me." The moon had cleared when they reached the southern edge of the property. Ruthie led the way, cutting through a thicket of thorn bush and knee-high grass until they reached a patch of earth that looked wrong. The grass here was a shade too pale. The air smelled of ash. "This is where they buried it," she said. "Wooden altar, made from fence posts and bone." Halem pulsed, running his hand over the dirt. Something pulsed beneath the surface. "I need to see it," he said. "No," Ruthie said sharply. "You dig, you wake it." But he was already grabbing a spade from the nearby shed. They dug for nearly 30 minutes before the metal tip of the spade hit wood. A hollow thunk. Caleb cleared away more dirt, revealing what looked like a crude wooden slab, carved with sigils and old runes he didn't recognize. A scent like copper and decay wafted up. He reached out and the ground trembled. Ruthie grabbed his arm. "Stop." But it was too late. A crack split down the center of the altar. From it, something black and wet began to seep upward. Caleb stumbled back, heart hammering. The wind picked up. And then the laughter returned. Only this time it was everywhere. From the trees, the corn, the soil, echoing and layered, like dozens of mouths giggling in unison. Ruthie screamed. Caleb turned just in time to see her get yanked backward by something unseen, dragged into the brush. He ran toward her voice, but by the time he reached the thicket, she was gone. Only her flashlight remained, its beam pointed skyward, flickering. Caleb fell to his knees, and in the distance, back toward the field, the scarecrow was gone. It rang again at 3:17 a.m., a single clang, as sharp and unnatural as a scream down a hallway. Caleb jerked upright from where he'd collapsed by the window, a blanket clutched around his shoulders. The flashlight he'd brought back from the woods still sat on the floor, its battery long dead. Ruthie's voice was still ringing in his ears. Or maybe it was just phantom memory by now, ripped away mid-sentence, devoured by shadows he never saw. Outside, the bell swayed gently on its rusted hinge beside the barn. He could see it clearly in the moonlight. But there was no wind. The cornfields were dead still. Caleb didn't move, he just watched. He was trying not to think of the altar buried beneath the earth, or the black sludge that had bubbled up from its cracked wood, or the way the scarecrow had vanished the moment he returned. He was trying not to think of Ruthie's scream. But the house felt hollow without her. It creaked differently, like it knew she was gone. He rose slowly and walked to the porch, boots creaking against the old boards. The night air pressed down heavy, humid with rot. In the distance, far past the edge of the barn, the corn stood in rows like silent sentinels. He lifted the shotgun, not because he thought it would help, but because it was all he had left. He walked the perimeter of the barn first. The bell had stopped ringing, but its sound still echoed in his skull, like tinnitus tuned to dread. He didn't see anything unusual at first, just the same patches of mildew, the same rust-streaked tools hung on nails from a bygone era. But then he noticed something at the base of the barn wall, a handprint. Smudged into the old wood, fingers splayed unnaturally wide, each digit ending in a sharp black smear. It wasn't paint. It wasn't blood. It was soot. He crouched, brushing his fingers against it. The texture clung to his skin, sticky and warm, like it had just been left. Caleb stared at it, then looked up slowly, realizing it wasn't the only one. More prints trailed up the side of the barn, arcing toward the roof. And above that, scratches. Deep, wide gouges torn into the wood, too deliberate to be wind or weather. He took a step back. That's when he noticed the corn. One of the rows, a dozen yards from the edge of the barn, was different, flattened, as if something had pushed through it. Not walked, shoved its way through. The path led straight to the tree line where Ruthie had been pulled. He should have gone back for her then, should have followed it. Instead, he went back inside and locked every door. At sunrise, Caleb sat at the table, the morgue coat spread out in front of him. The stench had gotten worse overnight, an almost chemical sweetness, like spoiled fruit soaked in bleach. He could see now the inside lining was torn, and beneath it, stitched into the inner hem, were 4 letters written in red thread. A-M-M. He touched them gently, heart thudding. Not initials. A warning? Or a prayer? Or both? He rifled through his uncle's leather box again, searching for anything he missed. One of the clippings he hadn't read properly the night before caught his eye. A report from 1972, rural Tennessee. Headline: Knox County Bell Curse Continues. 3rd generation dead, 4th fled. There was a grainy photo of 5 people. His grandfather, unmistakably young but grim-faced. His uncle Marvin beside him, eyes unreadable. 3 others, all marked with a black X over their faces. In the margin was a note. The bell calls it. The scarecrow wears the marked. The field eats the rest. Caleb read the sentence 5 times, trying to make it mean something else. It didn't. He looked back at the barn. The bell still hung there, silent now. But if what the note said were true, if the bell called it, then it wasn't random. Someone had rung it, or something. And it kept ringing at the same time, 3:17 a.m., not a minute sooner. That wasn't chance, that was ritual. By noon, Caleb had driven the old Ford out to town. A gas station, a diner, 2 boarded-up shops. Nothing else. The town was emptier than he remembered, like a fossil of something once living. He stopped at the diner anyway. It was the only place with a human in it. The waitress was in her 60s, hair piled like a nest atop her head. She didn't look up as he sat down. "Coffee?" she asked flatly. "Please," Caleb said, voice hoarse. She poured. The smell was burned. He waited until she brought sugar before speaking. "You know anything about the old Kincaid farm?" She froze, just slightly, like a shiver had passed through her bone. "Not much to know," she said carefully. "Been abandoned near 20 years. I've been staying there." She blinked. "With who?" "My aunt, Ruthie Kincaid." Silence. Then, "I didn't know she was still alive." "She's not," Caleb said, then quickly corrected. "I mean, she's missing." The waitress's face changed. Not softened, just tightened. "She ever tell you about the bell?" He nodded slowly. The woman reached under the counter, pulled out a worn manila folder, and dropped it on the table like she'd been waiting years to do so. "You're not the first to come back there," she said. Inside were newspaper prints, photocopies, even old Polaroids. One showed a scorched field. Another, a man with hollow eyes standing in front of a handmade cross, smoke curling behind him. The waitress tapped one with her nail. Every 30 years. That's how long it sleeps. When it wakes, someone always rings that damn bell. Some say it's instinct, others say it's grief. She leaned closer, her voice almost a whisper. You say the scarecrow moved? Caleb nodded once. She exhaled like she'd expected that answer. Then you're already part of it. He stared at her. What is it? She hesitated, then she said the name like a curse. The Hollowed. On the drive back, Caleb kept repeating the name in his head. The Hollowed. It felt wrong in his mouth. Ancient. A title, not a name. A role that something or someone he had been playing for decades. By the time he pulled into the gravel drive, the sky had begun to bruise with evening. The barn stood motionless. The bell no longer hung from its frame. It had been torn down, or taken. And across the cornfield, in the dying light, he could just make out the silhouette of the scarecrow once more. Except this time, it wasn't standing in the field. It was standing at the porch steps, facing the door, as if waiting to be let inside. The scarecrow didn't move. It just stood there. Head bowed slightly, its wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow that didn't match the light. One arm hung lower than the other, a bundle of what might have once been straw, now matted and dark. But it wasn't the same scarecrow as before. Caleb could tell. This one was dressed in Ruthie's denim coat, the same coat she had worn the night she vanished. He stared at it through the front window, shotgun clenched in both hands. His knuckles were white, but his breathing was calm. Too calm. The kind of quiet your body falls into when panic is too big to hold. It didn't move. Not an inch. But its presence pulsed. The air around it seemed to blur slightly, like heat rising off asphalt. Even though the evening was cool, a smear of flies gathered above its shoulders, circling with manic precision. He backed away from the window, one slow step at a time. He checked the locks again. They were still latched. Then he did the only thing left. He descended into the cellar. The air beneath the house was cold and damp. The concrete walls wept with condensation, and the bulbs overhead flickered despite being recently replaced. Caleb had brought down all the files, notes, and newspaper clippings he could gather, spreading them across the workbench beside the furnace. He lit the oil lamp Ruthie kept down here. It made everything feel like a war bunker. The documents were older than he realized. Some went back to the 1800s. Handwritten accounts from family members long gone. A few were yellowed and brittle, the ink smudged with time, or maybe tears. One passage stood out, dated 1891. They came again in the corn. The bell rung, and Pa was gone. Ma said the hollow takes a body only when it's marked. I seen the mark. It burns beneath the skin, but no one else sees it till too late. Another, scribbled in a torn field journal. The scarecrow ain't a warning, it's a promise. When it walks, it means someone's already lost. Caleb flipped to a page from Ruthie's own journal. Her handwriting was neater than the others, more deliberate. The bell doesn't summon it. The bell awakens what we buried. The hollowed is not a spirit, it's an inheritance. That line chilled him more than the rest. An inheritance, as if the thing in the field was just the final payment on a debt passed down like a surname. He didn't realize he'd fallen asleep at the table until he heard the sound. Not the bell this time. A thump from upstairs, then a dragging sound, then silence. Caleb held his breath. Another thump, closer now. Floorboards groaning. Something was inside the house. He crept up the cellar stairs, shotgun raised. The door above him was slightly ajar. He hadn't left it like that. He eased it open. The kitchen was empty, but the front door, locked before, was now wide open, swinging gently in the night breeze. No sign of forced entry, no broken glass. Just absence, as if someone had simply unlocked it and walked in, or had the house let it in. He moved through the living room slowly, scanning corners. That's when he saw it. A trail, not of blood, but of black footprints, oily, inhumanly wide, leading from the door toward the staircase and up. Every instinct told him to leave, run, drive to town and never look back. But Ruthie was still out there, or something of her was. So he followed the prince. The upstairs hallway was narrow and warped from age. Doors lined either side, some shut, some hanging crooked on their hinges. The prince led to the master bedroom, his uncle's old room. The door was ajar. He pushed it open. Nothing inside, no movement, no sound, but the footprints stopped at the foot of the bed, and on the bed, laid out carefully, like an offering, was the scarecrow's coat, the denim one, Ruthie's. It was clean now, too clean, as if it had just been washed and pressed. Pinned to the collar was a key. Attached to the key was a tag, field box 4. He didn't know what that meant, but as he turned to leave, something scraped across the window. He spun, shotgun aimed, and froze. On the other side of the glass, inches from his face, was a figure, pale, human-shaped, hollow-eyed, mouth open in a silent scream. But it wasn't breathing, and it wasn't blinking, because it wasn't alive. It was a mask, hung from a pole, a second scarecrow, staring in from the roof. And behind it, further back in the cornfield, dozens more had begun to rise, shadows uncoiling from the soil like smoke in reverse. He didn't sleep that night. He waited for the sun. Then he went to the fields. Box 4 was a long-forgotten seed chest, half buried under brush near the far fence line. It was locked with a rusted padlock, which the key fit perfectly. Inside were documents, maps, and photos, and a tape recorder. He pressed play. Ruthie's voice crackled to life. "If you're hearing this, I'm likely gone. Don't blame yourself. It's the Kincaid curse. It always comes back. The scarecrows are just the start. There's a hole in the woods, Caleb. The place grandfather used to call the navel. That's where it sleeps. And it's waking now. You'll feel it in your dreams. You'll smell it on the air. You need to finish what we couldn't, but not with fire. Fire makes it stronger. That's what we never understood. You have to bury it right, bury it alive." Her voice cut out, then returned. Just one last whisper. "If it reaches the house, no one gets out." That night, the bell didn't wait for 3:17. It rang at 2:42, then again at 2:50, then it rang and didn't stop. Clang, clang, clang. Caleb ran to the porch, shotgun raised, and what he saw wasn't one scarecrow. It was 12, lining the road, blocking every way out. Some were the clothes of townsfolk. Some were dressed in black, arms stitched into praying positions, and the one in the center had no face at all, just a mirror for a head, reflecting Caleb's own terrified expression, as it slowly lifted one hand and pointed directly at him. There's a weight in the ground that no plow can break. Caleb had grown up on this land, learned to till it, walk it, curse it, but not once had he felt what he did now. The earth no longer felt like dirt beneath his boots. It felt aware. Every step toward the navel pressed harder against his chest, as if the soil itself was trying to warn him, "Go back. This isn't for you." But he couldn't go back. Not after the bell had rung without pause for 15 full minutes, not after the mirror-faced scarecrow had pointed at him, then vanished, taking with it the line of 12 that had stood like funeral sentries outside his home. And not after the dream. God, the dream. He had seen Ruthie in it. She hadn't aged, hadn't suffered. She was standing barefoot on a black hill that pulsed like breathing muscle, her mouth sewn shut with corn silk, her eyes wide with a kind of terror that lives behind death. She had mouthed one word over and over, despite the threads. Dig. Dig. So now, shovel in hand, Caleb followed the old deer trail that curved behind the west orchard and disappeared into the thickets. He hadn't been this far in years, not since his grandfather's funeral, and even then they never spoke of the hollow. Locals called it the navel, a shallow depression in the woods where nothing grew. Not trees, not grass, just stone and stillness. Caleb had always thought the name was poetic, maybe a little quaint. But standing at the edge now, he understood. The place felt like a scar. Not a wound, it had healed over, but something once opened had tried very hard to close again. It was the only part of the forest where the birds didn't sing. He started digging. The topsoil was easy, loamy, damp, a little sour, but after 3 feet, the spade struck something hard, not rock. Wood. He dropped to his knees and brushed it clear. A plank, thick and old, like part of a crate. Beneath it, a hinge. He dug wider, uncovering what appeared to be a trap door. No one had mentioned this in the journals. No one had said a word. He looked back the way he'd come. The trees leaned toward him slightly, as if trying to eavesdrop. The wind had died. He pulled the door open, and the smell hit him. It wasn't rot. It wasn't death. It was age, like opening a grave full of time instead of bones. A narrow staircase descended into darkness, cut from red clay and lined with wood that had fossilized with damp. He lit his lantern and began the descent, 1 step at a time. Each footfall felt like a drumbeat in his bones. At the bottom, the corridor opened into a chamber. A circular room. Walls of packed dirt. No candles, no markings, except for the floor. The entire center was a pit, shallow and dry with something buried in it. Not a person. A post, 8 feet tall, carved with symbols he didn't recognize. Around it lay 12 objects, each wrapped in linen, each weeping a slow black stain into the dirt. He stepped closer, unwrapped one. It was a face, dried, preserved, with lips sewn tight, eyes missing. He stumbled back, bile rising in his throat. Whatever this place was, it had been used, and not just once. He picked up the recorder Ruthie had left him and hit record. Found a chamber beneath the navel. Contains what appear to be ritual remnants. Faces removed and preserved. Central totem. Unknown origin. Feels wrong. Air pressure strange. Possible spiritual or... He stopped. Something moved in the dark behind him. He spun, lantern raised. Nothing. But the totem? It had changed. Slightly. A new line had been etched into it. Fresh. Still bleeding. He didn't remember turning to run, only that when he saw the stairs again, they seemed longer. Farther. Every step up felt like pulling through molasses. The air grew heavier, his vision flickered, his skin flushed cold. The last thing he saw before exiting the hollow was a hand, reaching from the wall itself, waving goodbye. He burst back into daylight and collapsed just outside the door. The trees were still there. The wind had returned, but the bell was ringing again. Only this time, it wasn't from the house. It was from the fields. Back at the farm, the front door had been scratched. Deep gouges in the frame, like claws, had raked it in a slow, deliberate rhythm. Inside, things had been moved, not stolen, rearranged. All the family photos now faced the wall. All the clocks read 3:17. The scarecrow from the front yard now stood in the living room. Its face had changed again. Now it wore his face. And around its neck was a piece of string, holding a cornhusk doll. The doll had one arm missing, the same arm Ruthie had broken when they were children. He picked it up. On its back was a stitched word, "Welcome." That night, Caleb burned the doll. He took the shotgun and sat on the porch, staring out toward the corn. Waiting. He knew now. This wasn't about his family anymore. This was about him. The Hollowed had chosen. And it was coming home. Caleb didn't sleep that night. The shotgun stayed across his lap, one shell already chambered. He sat still as stone, eyes fixed on the cornfield, watching how the stalks shifted when no wind blew, how the rows realigned themselves ever so slightly, like a labyrinth growing in real time. The lantern flickered once, then held. Its soft glow cast long shadows along the porch. Somewhere beyond the dark line of trees, an owl hooted. A second later, something imitated the hoot perfectly. Too perfectly. Caleb's skin crawled. At exactly 3:17 again, the scarecrow in the living room screamed. It wasn't human. It wasn't even animal. It was something that had learned what screaming sounded like and tried to copy it using lungs it didn't have. He didn't run. Instead, he stood, walked back inside, and faced it. The scarecrow was gone. In its place, a pile of corn husks arranged like a body, each one etched with tiny sigils like burn marks. The mirror face mask lay on top, cracked straight down the middle. Behind it, written in soot across the living room wall, "You're almost ready." At dawn, Caleb returned to the hidden chamber beneath the navel. He brought kerosene, matches, and the pages he'd ripped from his grandfather's journal, the ones written in languages no one in the family ever admitted to knowing. He planned to burn the place, salt it, scorch it, erase it. But the hollow had changed. The trapdoor was open. The stairs were gone. In their place was a slope, freshly carved, descending much deeper than before. As he stepped inside, the air thinned and tasted of metal. The light from the surface dimmed unnaturally fast. It didn't feel like entering a tunnel. It felt like being swallowed. He descended in silence. No insects, no breeze, only the faint thrum of pressure building in his ears, like he was sinking underwater. The path curved left, then right, then narrowed. The lantern flickered and died. He struck another match. The flames sputtered, revealing walls that pulsed, breathed, as if the tunnel were lined with veins. He was in something alive. He was inside it. Then, just ahead, a glow. He stepped into a wide cavern. What he saw should not have existed. 12 figures stood in a perfect circle. Not people. Not exactly. Each was faceless, arms outstretched, palms upward, holding fragments of bone and string and wet, shining cloth. Their skin was pale yellow, waxy and tight, like fruit left too long in a cellar. At the center, mounted atop a monolith of stone carved with identical runes as the totem above, was Ruthie's doll. It had changed. No longer limp and handmade, it now had teeth. Dozens, tiny, serrated, set into its belly. It turned its head toward Caleb. The head moved, the eyes blinked, and the mouth opened wide. It spoke without sound, lips shaping one silent word. "Kneel!" Caleb dropped to one knee, as if pulled downward. He tried to move. Nothing. The 12 figures raised their arms higher. From their palms, blood trickled upward, not down, defying gravity, gathering into the air and forming lines that swirled and wrapped around the doll like ink forming sentences. The glyphs in the chamber glowed red. The room vibrated. Then everything fell silent, and Ruthie's voice whispered in his ear, not from the doll, from behind him. "They let me speak once, just once. They said you'd come. They said you'd dig too deep." Caleb turned. There was no one there. But the totem now bore a new carving. "Flesh remembers." When he finally escaped the hollow, if that word even applied, he collapsed in the field, soaked with sweat and blood he couldn't identify as his own. The sun had not risen. The moon hung still, fixed in the same position as when he entered. No time had passed, or maybe too much had. At the farmhouse, the barn doors were open. Inside, a fresh circle had been carved into the hay. At its center, the body of a calf, perfectly bisected, with the entrails arranged in spirals. Caleb recognized the pattern. It was the map he'd drawn as a child, the same one Ruthie used to follow when she wanted to hear the songs from the ground. He fell to his knees again, not from reverence, but exhaustion. Then he saw them. Footprints. Small, bare, fresh, leading toward the corn, and in the distance, halfway down the row where he and Ruthie used to race, a figure, standing still, a child's silhouette, waving. He stood, waved back. The figure turned and walked into the rows, slow and deliberate. He followed. It took him longer than he expected. The path twisted, doubled, reversed. The corn grew taller the deeper he went. Eventually, he reached a clearing he didn't know existed. There, arranged in a circle, were 12 dolls. Each had a face he recognized. His mother, his father, his grandfather, Ruthie, himself. The remaining ones had blank husks, waiting. A 13th doll, larger, stood in the center. It had no face at all, but as Caleb stepped forward, something stirred beneath the soil beneath it. Something rising, pushing upward. The dirt cracked, split, fell away, and what emerged from the earth was not a person, not an animal, not anything that belonged in this world. It had his eyes, his voice, and as it opened its mouth, he realized too late. It came to take his name. They say the dead don't walk in Harrow's Hollow, but no one said anything about them digging their way up. Caleb watched in horror as the thing that wore his eyes crawled from the soil. It didn't speak, not with a mouth. It bled its intentions. From the corners of its cracked lips, a thick black sap oozed, sliding down its chin and soaking into the earth. Wherever it dripped, the ground pulsed. It stood, hunched, limbs too long for its frame, skin like cracked parchment and muscle that flexed like rope soaked in bile. Caleb stepped back, instinct screaming, but the corn behind him had closed in. There was no way out. The thing cocked its head, as if listening to a frequency no one else could hear. Then it opened its mouth, not to speak, but to exhale. A swarm of flies poured out. Not normal flies. These shimmered like oil, wings whispering phrases in languages lost to time. They scattered, into the dolls, into the corn, into him. He slapped at his skin, tried to scrape them off, but they weren't landing. They were sinking in, disappearing into his pores. He screamed. The field swallowed the sound. Hours passed, maybe more. Caleb woke in the circle lying on the cold earth. The 13th doll was gone. The others had turned to face him, straw heads tilted. One of them now wore his face. He scrambled to his feet, his legs trembling. No sign of the creature, no sign of Ruthie, but the field was different now. Silent, too silent. Even the breeze refused to breathe. He found the path by accident. A groove cut into the corn, as though someone had been dragged. Blood lined the edges. He followed, back to the barn. Back to where everything began. Inside, the air was sour and metallic. He expected the calf's body to be gone, and it was. In its place, a man, naked, pale, breathing, lying in the exact same spiral. Caleb didn't recognize him at first, but when the man opened his eyes, Caleb's knees buckled. It was his father, but not how he remembered him. Younger, stronger, wearing the same look he had the day he left, when Ruthie was still alive and the field still obeyed natural laws. "Son," the man said, voice like gravel soaked in honey. "Dad," Caleb barely whispered. The man sat up, slow, deliberate. His skin glistened with a sheen that wasn't sweat. "You've cracked the navel," he said. "I told you never to dig, but you always were your mother's child." Caleb backed away. "You're dead? I buried you?" The man smiled, not deep enough. He stood, towering now, not quite the man Caleb remembered. He stood, towering now, not quite the man Caleb remembered. His shadow stretched unnaturally across the hay. "You think we plant corn for harvest," the man said, circling him. "The crops were just a veil. This land feeds something else. Always has." "Ruthie," Caleb started. "She was the first to listen," his father interrupted. "She heard it, and it hurt her back. That's why it took her, because she was willing." Caleb's mouth went dry. "What is it?" His father's grin widened. "The one beneath, the root, the mouth that eats names." A whisper surged through the barn, rustling the rafters, making the wood groan. "You brought it closer," the man said, placing a hand on Caleb's chest. "You let it in, just like I did, just like your grandfather before me. It's our blood. It remembers." He shoved Caleb backward. He fell through the barn floor, down into blackness. He landed hard, mud, cold, thick. He gagged. Something squirmed beneath his hands. Worms. Long, slick, with human teeth. He scrambled away, found a dim lantern in the distance. Not lit but glowing. He crawled toward it. The tunnel widened, more carvings on the walls. Not just symbols now, faces, hundreds, screaming, mouths agape, eyes hollow. Each one looked like someone from Harrow's Hollow. Some were from memory. Others were from photographs he'd seen in old family albums. One looked just like Ruthie. She blinked. He screamed again, then a sound, a humming, not from in front of him, from inside. His chest vibrated. He pulled his shirt down. A mark had appeared. The same spiral from the field, the same spiral from the map. It was burned into his skin, still moving. At the end of the tunnel, a chamber opened. Candlelight flickered, though there were no flames, just shadows that danced like fire. In the center stood a woman, old, wrinkled beyond belief, wearing a dress made of stitched corn husks and teeth. She turned. Her eyes were black, not dark, not shadowed, absent. "Caleb," she said, though her lips never moved. "You're right on time." He stared. "Do I know you?" She stepped closer. "You know me like the field knows rot, like the roots know thirst. You came from me, same as Ruthie did." He stumbled back. "No, my mother's dead. Your mother was the vessel. I was the seed." She raised a hand. "Do you remember the lullaby she used to sing?" She began to hum, and Caleb froze. He did remember, but he'd never told anyone. No one could have known it, not unless— "You're the reason Ruthie changed," he said. "You're the one who made her hear it." "I didn't make her," the woman smiled. "She listened." A wave of heat burst through the chamber. The spiral on his chest flared red. He collapsed, screaming. "Shh!" She knelt. "It's almost done. The hollow needs a name. Yours." "No," he gasped. "The land is hungry," she whispered, pressing her palm to his forehead. "And your blood sings sweetest of all." The pain was molten. It slid through Caleb's nerves like lava through old bone. The spiral on his chest spun faster, no longer just a mark but a mouth, opening, widening, tasting. He could feel it leaching memories. The scent of his mother's hair, the scratch of Ruthie's voice, the warmth of summer mud between his toes when he was 6, all being devoured. He writhed on the cold stone, screaming, but no sound echoed, only the humming. That same lullaby, now deeper, slower, vibrating through the earth like a dirge played on broken strings. The old woman hovered above him, eyes flickering with hunger. "You were born for this," she said, her voice layered, too many mouths speaking through one frame. "The land took your sister. Now it wants you to seal what was opened." Caleb gritted his teeth, tears streaming sideways across his face. "No, I'm not a seed." She leaned close, her breath a gust of dead things. "Oh, Caleb, you're not the seed." She touched the spiral. "You're the soil." The ground opened beneath him, not a crack, but a gaping maw, lined with roots and bone and something older than language. He fell, again, but this time it wasn't gravity that pulled, it was intent. He landed in water, cold, brackish, alive. Shapes moved below, limbs that shouldn't bend, teeth that spiraled outward like sunflower seeds soaked in meat. He swam, or tried, but the water resisted, thick as oil. Every stroke felt like drowning twice. Hands grabbed him, but not human. Pale things, child-sized. They dragged him ashore, if it could be called that. A shore of bone shards and corn husks, all writhing. And then, Ruthie. She stood at the edge, barefoot, her white dress stained and heavy, but her eyes were clear. No blackness, no hunger, just Ruthie. "Caleb," she said, her voice cracking like a twig in fire. "You shouldn't be here." He stared at her, chest heaving. "I came for you." Her gaze dropped. "I know, and now you're part of it too." "What is it?" he snapped. "What is this place?" Ruthie turned, pointing to a massive structure rising from the darkness beyond the bone shore. It looked like a tree at first, twisted, monstrous, but as Caleb squinted, he saw the truth. It was made of people. Dozens, hundreds, maybe more, fused together, arms outstretched like branches, faces locked in silent screams. Their bodies formed the trunk, the limbs, the leaves, and at its root, a door, black, pulseless, waiting. "It's the hollow tree," Ruthie said. "It remembers everyone it eats." Caleb felt bile rise. "You mean it's alive?" She nodded. "And it wants a name." He touched his chest. The spiral had stopped spinning, but it still burned. "You can still leave," Ruthie whispered, "if you give it what it wants." "And what's that?" She looked up at him, eyes wide with sorrow. "Me." "No." Caleb stepped back. "I didn't come here to trade you." "You don't get to decide," Ruthie said, soft but firm. "It's already decided. The hollow needs a voice. I've been hearing it for years. Mom heard it before me. You're just the one who opened it." She stepped toward him. Her feet didn't touch the bone. "I'm tired, Caleb. So tired. Every night it sings through me. Every morning it digs deeper. I can't hold it in much longer. You're not alone anymore." Her lips trembled. "But if you stay, it gets worse." Something groaned beneath them. A long, low rumble, like 1,000 bellies emptying in unison. The hollow tree pulsed. Ruthie fell to her knees. "It's time," she gasped. The spiral on Caleb's chest flared again, but this time he reached into it. His hand passed through his own skin, into a void of roots and memory and endless thirst. He found something. Cold, sharp, he pulled, and from his chest came a key, bone-white, barbed, wet with something ancient. Ruthie looked up. "It's the root key." Caleb nodded slowly. "Then let's use it." Together, they approached the hollow tree. The door opened before they touched it. Beyond was a spiral staircase, descending. Every step was a scream. Every wall bled names. They descended in silence. At the bottom, a chamber, a mouth, a presence. The root waited. It was not a being. It was not a god. It was hunger given shape. Its voice bled into their minds, not as sound, but as need. One stays, one leaves, one must remember, one must rot. Caleb held Ruthie's hand. "I'll stay." She shook her head. "No, I will." They argued, whispered, pleaded. The root didn't care. It only waited. Then Caleb did something unexpected. He cut his palm, pressed it to Ruthie's, let their blood mingle. "I name you both," he whispered to the chamber. "You want a name? Take ours." But together, the root roared. The ground split. Roots erupted, grasped them both, tore them apart, then bound them back together. A scream, then nothing. Caleb woke alone, in the barn. The sun rising, the spiral gone. The 13th doll crumbled to dust beside him. He stood. Everything was still. Too still. He stepped outside. The corn had been cut down. Every stalk, every row, harvested, burned. The field was ash, and in the ash, a single footprint, small, barefoot, Ruthie's, leading into the woods, and from the trees, a voice, soft, calling. "Caleb!" He picked up the knife. His hand shook. His mouth mumbled, "Forgive me." He raised the knife, and suddenly a hand grabbed his wrist from behind. "Claire?" Her eyes burned. "Not you," she said. "It was me." The root flared with red light. The tree screamed in the voices of hundreds. Ruthie laughed, and then everything exploded into ash. "Do you remember?" Ruthie's voice echoed from the trunk. "Where am I?" "Inside. How can I save you? You have to choose." "Choose what?" "Next." Caleb trembled. "I can't." "Then we'll all live here forever. In the wood, in the roots." There was no way out, only choice. And in the corner of the cave, on a stone pedestal, was a ceremonial bone knife, its handle twisted into a blade. A name was carved beneath it. Claire. Caleb backed away. "No, not her. If not her," Ruthie hissed, It would be someone else, a smaller one, more forgettable. The darkness began to shake. The root rose, wrapping around Caleb's legs. The cave walls oozed blood. The root remembers. Caleb didn't hesitate. He jumped in. Below was a network of caves made of roots and black stone. The walls were slimy and sticky with the smell of sap. On them, primitive drawings, flayed people, eyeless children, spirals protruding from mouths. Deeper, the air grew colder, the light dimmer, until all that remained was the sound of his own heartbeat. And then he saw it. The tree. But not from the forest, but the tree of another world, growing from the ceiling, roots hanging down like intestines. On the trunk, faces. Ruthie, his father, his mother, Dr. Lyman, all of them, woven of roots and ash, screaming silently. A new face was forming, not yet clear, but Caleb knew. It was him. Caleb climbed over the wire fence behind the kitchen, where the cameras were blind. Blood ran as the barbed wire scraped his shoulder, but he didn't stop. The wind was cold, but he knew the way, as if every step was engraved in his bones. The path led through an abandoned cemetery, where the headstones were broken, the names obscured by moss and ash. On the wind he heard a child's voice, soft, singing in an ancient language that no longer existed. When he reached the old house, all that remained was the brick foundation and the scorched floor. No trees, no doors, just a deep hole in the middle of the foundation, spiraling like a giant termite mound leading underground. On the third night, he heard 3 knocks on his door at 3:13 a.m. No one stood outside. Only a scrap of paper was stuck through the door, sticky with sap and ash. Last time. Claire brought him an old map, hand-drawn in red ink. The woods behind the hospital, a shortcut through the dead grass, a spiral marker, where Caleb's family home used to be. "I can't come with you," she said, "but you have to get there before he chooses someone else. What if I fail?" She didn't answer. She just looked out the window, where the sunset was turning the bare branches yellow. The night of the escape was moonless. Claire stood there, tears on her face. Dr. Lyman whispered to a nurse, a thick clipboard in her hand. Caleb was put back in bed, hooked up to an IV, sedated. "I saw her," he said. Dr. Lyman didn't ask anyone. He just wrote, "Back to delirium. Mention of little girl. Need to increase clozapine dose." "It's not a hallucination," Caleb whispered. "It's real." Claire leaned in close, took his hand. "Do you ever think you're the last person to remember that?" Their eyes met, and Caleb understood. She had seen the tree, too. She had remembered. For the next week, Caleb pretended to obey, took his medicine, eaten enough, silence. But he knew things were changing. He looked down. Veins were rising from the mud, burrowing into his ankles, binding. "You have to go back," Ruthie said. "Remember everything, or you'll find someone else." "What is it?" She didn't answer. Instead, she held up a hand, the palm slashed in a blackened spiral. Blood was running back from the wound, up her wrist, spreading up her arm like roots. Caleb screamed, but the sound didn't leave his throat. There was no echo, no air, just silence, thick as mud. And then it all melted away. When he woke, he was lying on the floor of the hospital room. Not the woods, not room 9B. Just the hospital, bright, white, smelling of bleach. The wind didn't blow, but her hair fluttered. Her ragged dress was streaked with ash, her eyes as black as a dried-up well. "We don't have much time," she said, her voice echoing from an old dream. "Ruthie," Caleb stepped back. "You're dead?" She tilted her head. "No, you were chosen. By who? By the thing below. It always chooses the children who remember." The roots began to rise around Caleb, slowly but steadily, as if to hold his feet. He jerked back, but the ground beneath his feet was soft as a swamp, squishy and cold. A small crack sounded, the sound of twisted wood or broken bone, not paint, charcoal. A figure sat beneath a massive tree, roots wrapping around its body like limbs. Children knelt in a circle. Above them, spirals hung in the sky like stars. In the corner, a phrase, nearly erased. "The root remembers." He turned, and the door was gone. The hallway, too. Just the tree. Now, real. And in its shadow, a girl, Ruthie. Not 8, not 16, but something else. She turned slowly and smiled. "Ready to finish what we started, Caleb?" This is the part of the conversation, Caleb. Ready to finish what we started, Caleb? Caleb. Ready to finish what we started, Caleb? Come up is empty. Ready to finish what we started. Ken Ruri grew up tentacles, raced the crouched, looked at the lamp where Caleb awakened him. Return to me if you can. May spin friend. Because I've seen him too. That night she brought him a key. Room 9B West Wing, long abandoned. Whatever's in there, she whispered, you'll either find the truth or lose what's left of yourself. He nodded. She kissed his forehead, motherly broken, then left. Caleb counted to 100, then slipped out. The West Wing had been closed for years. Mold snaked across the walls. Old beds rusted into the tile, and at the end of the hallway, a door marked 9E, scratched over with a familiar symbol, a spiral. He opened it. Inside, darkness. Not pitch black, but alive. A low hum filled the air, like something breathing or remembering. On the far wall was a mural, faded, ancient, not the offering. That meant Ruthie was still in danger, if she even existed at all. He needed to go back, to the house, to the tree, to the place where reality had first unraveled. But the world outside these walls was locked tight, unless he let it in again. The next morning, he refused the meds. The nurse, Claire, the only one who didn't treat him like a broken animal, frowned. That's not optional, Caleb. He looked at her. I saw him last night. Her hands trembled slightly. Who? The man in the stag mask. Claire paled. You shouldn't say that. Why not? She looked around, leaned in close, whispered, and then Caleb realized. Dr. Lyman had seen it before. That night, the dream returned. But this time, he wasn't a boy. He wasn't even Caleb. He was someone else. Older, crueler, wearing a stag's skull and robes made of thorn and bone. He stood atop a hill of ash, chanting words that burned on the tongue. Below him, dozens knelt, their eyes sewn shut, their mouths open, the spiral feeds. He awoke drenched in sweat, and for the first time in weeks, the window was open. Just an inch, but enough. He knew it was a message, not from outside, but from beneath. The thing in the roots hadn't died. It had simply retreated. Caleb had only been the vessel, because Ruthie didn't exist here. Not in this world. Not anymore. Or maybe she never had. He didn't know which thought frightened him more. Dr. Lyman was the only constant. A tall, tired man with yellow teeth and a way of smiling without ever actually smiling. He visited every Thursday afternoon, always the same chair, same questions. Do you remember the tree, Caleb? Yes. Do you remember what you did? I saved her. Saved who? Ruthie. A pause. Dr. Lyman would scribble notes in his little black book, pretending to be detached, but Caleb had seen him once, just once, linger a little too long on one of the drawings Caleb had taped to the wall. A spiral, crude, uneven, childlike, proof that something ancient, something alive still lived beneath the trees, and it wasn't finished with him yet. 3 months had passed. Caleb sat by the window of room 217, tracing faint spirals into the condensation on the glass. The view never changed. A skeletal tree, a bench no one used, and the high stone wall lined with barbed wire. The hospital was called Marrow Creek Behavioral Institute, but Caleb knew that was just a prettier name for what it really was, a place where memories went to rot. The nurses treated him gently now. The sedatives had been reduced. He was allowed crayons, books without spines, weekly supervised calls. But still, no one came. Ruthie never visited. A humming came from a speaker overhead. The same lullaby. He looked down, his hands wrapped in bandages, the scent of antiseptic. A nurse passed the small square window in the door. Then a voice crackled over the intercom. Patient 217 remains nonverbal, exhibits ritual pattern drawings. Subject insists his name is Caleb, though records show otherwise. Begin sedation protocol. Caleb screamed, but no sound came, only spirals. Carved into the floor, into his skin, into everything. They said he'd been found wandering the woods barefoot, muttering numbers and drawing spirals in the dirt. The papers called it a nervous fugue. The doctors called it trauma regression. But to Caleb, it was something far simpler. It was proof. Do you offer blood, memory, and name? I offer everything. The root surged around him, pierced his back, entered his mouth, his eyes. He screamed, and the spiral screamed with him. And then, darkness. He awoke, in the woods, the real woods. Birds chirped above. The sun was warm. He sat up slowly. No roots, no throne, no spirals, just trees. And a girl. Ruthie, but young again, innocent, smiling. Did you save me? She asked. Caleb nodded, eyes filling with tears. I think I did. She hugged him tightly. He closed his eyes. Peace, at last. But as he opened them, he wasn't in the woods. He was in a room. The walls were soft. The lights flickered. Then he saw Ruthie screaming, hands bound to the altar as he held the knife. No, Caleb whispered. That wasn't me. But it was. Another version, another life. One the spiral had tried before and failed. He reached the door, no handle, just breath. It inhaled as he exhaled. He pressed his hand to it. The bark cracked, splintered, opened. Inside was light, pure, blinding, and in the center, a throne of roots, empty, waiting, but not for him, for Ruthie. No, he said aloud, you can't have her. The chamber answered, then who will take her place? Caleb stepped forward. I will. The throne writhed, coiled. The spiral never forgets. Caleb clenched his fists. Then how do I undo it? She hesitated. You have to go deeper. He blinked. Deeper than this? Ruthie pointed at the corridor's end, where a door pulsed in time with his heartbeat. That's where the root lives. He nodded. Then that's where I go. The closer he got, the harder it became to move. The air thickened. His memories peeled from his bones like burnt skin. He saw his own funeral. No one came. He saw Ruthie as a teenager crying in a locked room, whispering to spirals drawn in charcoal on the walls. He saw himself cutting the bark from the spiral tree as a boy, laughing. So was the chamber. Now he was standing in a corridor made of bark and bone. It stretched endlessly in both directions. Etchings covered the walls, families drawn in spirals, always one figure erased or scratched out violently. Footsteps echoed. He turned. Ruthie stood behind him again, but she looked older, eyes dull, dressed darker. Time runs differently here, she said. You're changing, he whispered. So are you, she said. He looked at his hands. Bark, not skin. I don't want to become this. You already are, Ruthie said gently. You were marked as a boy. You let the spiral in. He shook his head. That was a mistake. No, she said. It was a bargain. Before he could ask what that meant, the roots beneath him surged upward and pierced the skin of his legs. He screamed, but no blood came, only memory. He was back at the farmhouse, but everything was wrong. The wallpaper crawled, the clocks ticked counterclockwise. His mother moved with marionette grace, face painted in spirals, whispering prayers into jars of ash. His father stood in the corner, eyes hollow, arms wrapped around something small and trembling. "Hello, Ash," Max said. His father stood in the corner, eyes hollow, arms wrapped around something small and Ruthie, no older than 4. Tears streaked her cheeks as she looked at Caleb through the veil of memory. "Help me," she mouthed. Then the spiral opened beneath her, and she was gone. He awoke with a gasp. The woman was gone. "Who are you?" Caleb asked, throat raw. "The first," she replied. "The first what?" "The first vessel. The first to give herself willingly to the root." He backed away slightly. The woman laughed, not cruelly, but with a sadness that coated the chamber. "Don't fear me. We all begin like you. Curious, brave, willing to trade our blood for someone we love." Caleb's voice faltered. "Is Ruthie safe?" "She is between, but not for long. The spiral takes what it's owed." And now the woman leaned forward, chains of fine roots cracking from her joints. "It wants you both." Caleb's hands trembled. "I offered myself." "Then you must grow," she said. Above him the roots formed a dome, pulsing faintly with a sickly green light. He was lying on a bed of moss, clothed in nothing but a gray shift, his skin etched with faint spirals that hadn't been there before. He sat up, dizzy. Voices whispered through the walls, not in English, not in any human tongue, but Caleb understood them. They weren't words, they were intentions, hunger, longing, regret. He wasn't alone. In the far corner, half wrapped in roots, a figure stirred, old, trembling. It was the woman from his dreams, the one he'd always thought was Ruthie's imaginary friend. Hair like cobwebs, skin like parchment. Her eyes opened slowly, and she smiled. "You finally came back," she croaked, and pulled the lost back into day. The spiral devoured everything. Caleb didn't fall, he descended, slowly, as if gravity had been rewritten. He moved not through space, but through memory. Fragments of his childhood flickered around him like dying fireflies. A paper crown, Ruthie's laughter, his mother's voice calling him in from the cornfields at dusk. Then silence, and the spiral turned inside out. He woke in a chamber of roots. The air was wet and alive, thick with a smell like rotting bark and old tears. But love that grows will find the way, blood for seed and flesh for stone. The stone. One verse changed. Down the roots he went alone. "She's a child." "She is a vessel," the harvester said. Caleb stepped forward. "Then break her open and fill me instead." The harvester studied him, then slowly it opened its robe. Inside was a spiral, not carved, not tattooed, but grown, and it was empty, waiting. "Come," the harvester said. Caleb stepped forward. Ruthie screamed, but he turned to her, eyes steady. "It's okay. This is why I came back." "No, Caleb, you'll forget everything, everyone." He looked at her, smiled. "Then you'll just have to remind me." And he stepped into the spiral. Darkness closed in, voices swirled, names fell like ash, but through it all, a single tether held. The sound of humming, a lullaby. It was draped in old robes, its face a mass of thorns and skin that shifted like wet paper. Its fingers were elongated, jointed too many times. From its back sprouted branches, bleeding. Caleb took a step back. Ruthie whispered, "That's the harvester." The figure didn't speak, but its presence pushed into Caleb's chest like a second heartbeat. It reached out, and in its palm was something familiar, a lock of red hair. Ruthie's. "Payment," it rasped. Its voice was the sound of rust on bone. Caleb felt rage rising. "You can't have her." "You already gave her," the harvester said, "long ago. Now she must return. "I'll go," Caleb said. Instead, Ruthie's eyes went wide. "No, let me," he said firmly, but this time the memory didn't stop at discovery. It continued, a voice calling him underground. A door he did open, a promise he made and forgot. Caleb reeled back, gasping. He staggered, blood still trickling from his hand, and stared at Ruthie. "I made a deal," he croaked. "When I was a kid, I made a deal to save you." She nodded slowly. "And now the tree wants its debt paid. But I never remembered." She pointed at the spiral on the altar, which was glowing now. "That was the deal. You'd forget until the root was ready." Thunder cracked, yet no storm brewed above. The ground trembled. From behind the oak tree, a figure emerged. Not a person. Not quite. Breathing. Caleb gritted his teeth. He pulled the knife from his belt, an old thing, once used to gut fish by the river. Its edge still held stories. He pressed it to his palm. The pain was immediate, but clean. He let the blood spill onto the altar. At first nothing, then the stone shivered, and Caleb saw a flood of memory. Not his, yet his. A man in a cloak in the 1700s, holding a newborn to the spiral-shaped tree. A woman screaming beneath the soil as roots fed on her bones. A ritual beneath a red moon. 13 children in a circle, all humming. Then, himself, at age 7, finding the first spiral behind the barn. "It needs blood," she said simply. Caleb stared. "Yours?" "No," she replied. "Yours." A silence grew between them, heavy as lead. He approached the altar, ran his hand across the stone. There were symbols etched into it, but they pulsed and twisted, rearranging whenever he tried to focus. One looked like the spiral, another looked like an eye. The rest felt like promises carved in a language the body understood before the mind. Caleb sighed. "And if I bleed on this, what happens?" "You remember everything," Ruthie said. He met her eyes. "I already do." "Not everything," she said gently. "Not the first time." "The first what?" "The first offering." The trees groaned. Something unseen moved behind them, something tall, between who you were and what you're about to become. He reached for her hand. It passed through his fingers. "Are you a ghost?" "No," she whispered. "I'm the echo." A branch snapped behind him. He spun, heart racing. No one. When he turned back, Ruthie was gliding deeper into the trees. "Come," she called. "It's almost ready." Caleb followed. They emerged into a clearing that wasn't on any map. In the center stood a single oak tree, massive and sickly, its bark blackened and its roots twisted outward like fingers clawing toward escape. Beneath it, a stone table. Smooth, circular, familiar. The altar. He remembered it, or thought he did. Ruthie stood beside it now, hands clasped, your face in ash, your name Sleep. He turned. She stood behind him. Ruthie, whole, pale, barefoot. Her hair fell in thick wet ropes across her shoulders, and her dress was no longer white. It was stitched with words. Real words, names. Some he recognized, some he didn't. She smiled, and Caleb's heart broke again. "Where are we?" he asked. She tilted her head. "Somewhere between." His breath caught in his throat. "Between what?" "Between remembering and forgetting," she said. Stepping forward, beat the tree, and it will keep hands to hold, but none to know. Low and off key, but now carrying words he'd never noticed before. "Down the roots, where secrets grow." The morning sun filtered through the canopy in slivers, but no warmth followed. Only the stillness, the hush of a place that remembered too much. The footprint had led him here. Ruthie's, unmistakable. He hadn't stopped to think, just followed. Ash clung to his boots like guilt. He didn't know how long he'd walked. Time bent inside these woods. The sky above seemed to pulse slowly, like a sleeping lung. He passed no paths, no animals, no bird song. just the faint scent of burning corn and the rhythmic crunch of his own feet over soil that breathed when he wasn't looking. Then he heard her. A hum, that same lullaby. The trees were older than memory. Caleb felt it with every step, the weight of centuries coiled in their roots, their trunks curving not by nature, but by something watching, whispering, shaping them. Sleep with one eye open. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good nightmare. Your support helps keep the darkness alive. Until next time. If this story haunted you, unsettled you, or made you look twice at the trees outside your window, then it did exactly what it was meant to do. Stories like this remind us that some roots should never be unearthed. Some doors should never be opened. Thank you for joining us on this descent into the dark.